Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Hook Pod, episode 30. Can't believe we made 30. Ray, how you doing? Big 3-0.
Yeah, we were just talking before we recorded that we've hit this magical milestone where most people fail. So we got it. We're getting a good motion. We're going to make it to 100 now.
Just got to keep the legs moving. It's like, you know, I was at the gym yesterday, and then on the TV that they have to distract you from your pain was a program where people race in the Gobi Desert. And I'm going like, that's pain. Cool. So it's just like a marathon where you just run across the Gobi Desert.
You run in the desert.
Yeah.
That's like in the sand, like Sahara.
In the sand, like in the
yeah. Oh, yeah. Have you ever run on the beach before? It's brutal.
You know how you get eliminated? There's I forget if it was the Gobi Desert or not, but anyway, how you get eliminated is there's a guy, a literal bunch of guys, right, who live there, who've lived there all their lives, and they walk a camel, right? And so if the camel goes past you, and they're walking the camel, they're not riding the camel, they're literally walking the camel on like a lead. If the camel goes past you, you're out. That's the elimination rule. That's how brutal this thing is. It's multi-day.
Oh my gosh.
And how most people fall out is their whole body just cramps up and they just like keel over and their entire body seizes up from dehydration and all that stuff. And I'm going, that's pain.
Especially your calves and your leg muscles, man. Because like sand is so unbalanced, right? Like every step you're reshifting because the sand's moving. Yeah,
totally. So we just got to keep one leg in front of the other. Which really is the advice that I give like most entrepreneurs that come to me and be like, man, can I keep this thing going? I'm like, just put one foot in front of the other.
You just don't stop. I had a real estate mentor a while back when I lived in Florida. And he said something similar. He said, listen, like, because he was like the 74-year-old guy, had 30 rental properties. And he's like, I just woke up one day and I was here. He said, and frankly, I was just along the way, just too stubborn to stop. I just woke up every day and just kept doing it. I was like, all right.
Hey, that's a strategy, man. Totally. So for episode 30, what are we covering today?
Yeah, so what we're going to cover today is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of e-commerce, and that's lifetime value. From our experience, it's a big deal because it really changes and dictates how aggressive a brand can grow. But I'd say a majority of brands that come to us, there's a period where we do a lot of conversation, number crunching to get clear on that, because that is such a critical piece in understanding how fast can you grow and how high can you grow, or frankly, how much should you actually stop growing because it's not going to come back in the future. And so I wanted to cover that because you actually made a really great calculator for us that we've been using for a long time. And our brands get a lot of use from it, and we get a lot of use from it because we can then see what is that cash payback for brands who get a first-time order.
Why is LTV misunderstood, or how is it misunderstood?
Yeah, I think it's misunderstood, and frankly, because not every brand, frankly, even knows what the number is, and so it's misunderstood in that how powerful it is. So, for example, me and Dee talk about this. Me and you, Dee, talk about that we're in the sick business, meaning we help sick businesses become unsick, and when a brand comes to us and they're sick, one of the things we look at is, okay, well, how much are you spending now? How much you're acquiring customer now? And then when are they going to buy from you again? You're going to get more cash or more profit. And a lot of brands, they may not know what that number is. So what I mean by misunderstood, one, they don't know it. But then number two is they don't actually know in what time period they can expect to get more cash from a new customer. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. And I actually thought that your take on the misunderstanding part was going to be around the new customer acquisition piece. What I mean by that is because so much of e-commerce and D2C is focused on ads.
Yes.
Right. That is the core focus, and then lifetime value turns into this by the way conversation. I guess much in the same way, the brands we talk to and we're like, so how's your email doing? And they're like, MailChimp? And we're going, no, not that part. The lifetime value part, the repeat purchase, come back again part, where you don't pay to get someone to purchase again. portion of it. So yeah,
And
I hear what you're saying though.
But surprisingly, more focus is often put in brands on getting new customers than it is on getting people to come back and buy again. If you look at sheer money spent, sheer effort and focus, and where people's attention goes is more on new customer than is returning customer, which I think is quite lopsided. It's much easier to get people to buy again than it is to acquire them for the first time. And so that is a misunderstood conception. So for example, there is a brand that we work with right now. They have a meat subscription brand. And they are a great example where their effort to get people to buy again is so much greater than new customers. They have one of the greatest LTVs I've ever seen, to where one order of around $70 turns into $1,200 to $1,300 by the end of the year is over. So that's an example where, yeah, it's an amazing, amazing business. And that's a great example where they put so much effort and emphasis on getting those people to keep buying again or on a subscription that it really snowballs for them. So now they can acquire customers more aggressively because they know what's a 12-month buyback typically, or really cashback of people buying again.
Yeah, for sure. Like let's dig into this thing, because there's so much to be able to unpack once you have a look at the calculator, right? And once you flash it in front of everyone and you start using the numbers, there's so much to be able to unpack tactically to inform you on what to do next, or the options that you have.
So this calculator, it was made by you, and it shows the power.
Can I be honest here, by the way?
Yes.
I don't remember, like, it's been so long, I don't even remember what year I made this calculator.
I do. It was 2019 you made it.
Right.
It's gone through a couple revisions, but the bones really came from you, especially because Shopify's changed so much. We've had to make a few changes in how we get the data. But yes, it was 2019 when you made it.
Oh my God, 2019.
What's so crazy about that is the fundamentals of e-commerce really haven't changed. Yes, markets, channels, costs have changed, but the fundamentals of e-commerce have not changed, and they probably never will change.
Right, and that's what got me to pulling the calculator or creating this for us and for the team. We were like a dramatically different team in 2019.
I know. I kind of miss.
I think we had like 28 people or something.
I know. I really miss those days.
Right. Remember back in the for sure. Remember back in the day when like e-commerce was easier?
Yeah, it's so funny. There's a lot of talk about that on X this week. That back in those days prior to 2021, really, it's you would win just by doing more. You didn't have to focus on having like a new product, new revolutionary product. You could just do more because it was just so easy, frankly. Whereas now, obviously, that's not the case.
Now it's real business.
Yeah, it's like you got to have a good product. You have something unique about the product. You have to be differentiated slightly from someone else. It's a totally different beast.
No Temu.
Okay, so this is... Go ahead.
No Temu to like compete against with $2 products.
You know what's funny? If Temu would have been around in 2019, they would have mopped up.
Oh man, yeah.
2018, 2019, they would have completely mopped up. Yeah. Because back then it was just more, and that's their playbook right now. Just more.
100%. Totally.
So this is the customer lifetime value calculator. So I'm going to walk you through just quickly what it is, how we get the data. Then we're going to do the most important part and just play with the numbers so you can see the aha moments that our brands see when they realize, holy crap, there's different ways to play the game. And really that's why I think you made it, is letting people see there's different ways to play this game. There's even better ways to play this game of D2C. So this calculator, what it does is it's going to pull all of your order data, and it's going to show your revenue. Let me just zoom out just for a little bit. Your revenue from those people, and then we'll play with a few numbers here in a few moments, and it'll show you how much you could increase your top line by changing a few inputs. So what we do is we go into Shopify, you go to the orders report, and you do an export within a time window. We typically choose a 12-month period. So this is from January to December. You can do lagging 12 months, just the full last year. You can do 3 months, really up to you. You export it, and then following a few instructions that we have on this video right here, you then just connect a few cells, a few formulas, and then it'll spit this out. And so using the full 12-month period and putting in your gross margin we make an assumption that a customer is going to stay with us for at least a year. For a lot of brands, it's actually much longer. It's 2 years or 3 years. But just for the simplicity's sake, let's say a customer stays with you for 1 year. And this calculator that D made automatically puts here how many months we're looking at, days, how many people bought according to unique email addresses, how many total orders. So as you can see right here, people are buying more than once, right? Because orders is more than email addresses. If this was the same number, then that means everyone's buying only one time. And then total revenue that brand had in that 12-month period. Then what this calculator does is automatically for you fills out what was the average order value of those people right here who bought in that time period. What was the average order frequency of those people who bought in that time period? What was their customer value? So here's what's great. It's automatically telling you, yes, the average order value is $57, but because people bought more than once, it takes that aggregate of, okay, they bought more than once, but on average, every customer over that 12-month period was worth $71. Then it tells you the average revenue per month and per day and all that kind of stuff. Now, here's where things get fun. Is that because this is your baseline or the current state, we want to say, okay, what happens if we could lift just one of the two most important numbers, average order value or purchase frequency? So if we could just change the average order value 10%, so increase it 10% from $57 to $63, and if we could just get people to buy 10% more often over the course of a year, so 1.23 to 1.36, what would that lift be? Well, we'd have a lift of from $71 value per customer to $86. And here's where I love to play this game. Let's assume we change nothing else in your business. So let's say we did the year over again, changed nothing else in your business. What would have happened is you would have made an additional $258,000 just by getting people to spend 10% more and 10% more often. It would have been $250,000. And that's the power of lifetime value, is when you can just tweak these few numbers. Let's change this to 15%, which is not a lot. 15%, now $325,000. Mm-hmm. Or if you can get a really big swing for the fences, and you can get that to 15%. Now we just increase the business by 30%.
Yeah,
just by changing those numbers, changing nothing else with acquisition, nothing else with ad spend, maybe even nothing else with CAC.
Yeah, and if you look at the purchase frequency after lift, so one of the red cells,
this right here
under the input, yeah, if you can put your mouth, yeah, totally, which shouldn't be a dollar sign, but anyway, besides the point. If you look at that, it's not even something as fantastical as a 2x purchase frequency. So what that means is, on average, throughout a 12-month period, after being averaged out, your customer base, if you can bring it to 1.4 purchases, which isn't a real number, but point being, if you just can move it from 1.23 to 1.42, that's where that money kind of rolls in. And having this type of very simple clarity, and it's to the point of oversimplified, right? You're just really operating in a vacuum here and doing some assumption modeling, but just based off of these two things alone, to be able to highlight and go, oh, that is how we can that is how we can identify key areas to run brand experiments against, or product experiments against, bundling experiments against, or email messaging experiments against, so that we can focus on one or the other, right? So, Ray, you're showcasing lift in two different areas, but
yes,
that is not necessarily the only way to go. So any brand can go in and go, listen, we have limited resources, and we want to keep the experiment really, really focused. Let's just look at AOV, and let's figure out a way to get lift on the AOV side and get crafty that way. So there we go. That's still a 184. That's close to $200,000 right there.
The thing that blows my mind, just such a small incremental, 15% sounds like a lot, but when you compare $57 to $66, it's such a small amount of money, more than likely you could raise your prices tomorrow and no one's going to know the difference.
I was just going to say the same thing. That's what this calculator can allow us to do is go, does this start a raising prices conversation? Does this start a bundling conversation? Does this start a whatever else conversation? What I like about this is,
like, have you seen the carts where, hey, you're $5 away from this gift, or you're $5 away
a shipping order threshold? Yeah, free shipping order threshold conversation. And what I like about the way that this information is put out and laid out on this table, pat on my own back from 5 years ago, is it does not start a how aggressively can we discount conversation. Because that would mean that your AOV, you now have to start getting like funky with the numbers. We bundle it up and then we get this price, but we discount it down. Oh crap, are we back at square one again? Is it a $59, $57 to $59 increase because we bumped it up, but then we're bumping it back down? Thinking that that's what's going to get more sales. Yeah.
Unless you have a consumable brand, the only thing that really gets customers to come back and buy again is going to be something new. A new style, a new design, a new flavor, a new ingredient, some other SKU, a new pattern. And we've seen this. There's a direct correlation in purchase frequency if you're not a consumable brand, but there's a direct correlation between increasing frequency with new drops and new things that you launch. So for example, this happens where brands come to us and we look at their frequency and it's quite low, but they haven't released a new product in 8 months, 9 months. Okay, well, based off our experience, a new drop or doing one drop a quarter can get you to an additional 20%. So let's go back to then just an additional 20%. Well, that really changes things now because now there's something new, there's something fresh for your previous customers to come back and buy again. And for a lot of you guys, something new doesn't have to be a whole new product line. It can be a new color, a new pattern, a new ingredient. Yep. Like there's a lot of easy ways you can work with your manufacturing to get something new, a new design. And a lot of them they don't think about that. They think I'm just going to release one product a year, but no, do like one a quarter. So now there's something new and fresh for people to buy again.
Dude, I can't wait to showcase Schnoa's post-purchase survey that Schnoa showed during the last that was actually pretty good. Shmemail meeting.
That was really good, actually.
To use not only working with your manufacturers to determine or to come up with that new SKU and that new product, and also working with customers to allow them to give us clues as to what's hot on their mind, to then be able to at least, again, start the conversation and stoke some ideas to go, we think we think investing into these new designs would give us highest likelihood of success and also make the customer base happy and perhaps appeal to that same persona, that same audience. And now advertising can do its thing and find more of them like this core. Right.
There's a figure brand I was talking to recently and they're getting killed by their competitors. And I was like, okay, well, when's the last time you launched a new product? Like, oh, probably about 2 years ago. I was like, well, could you maybe see why people are going to your competitor? I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it could be a significant reason. And that's probably the hardest part about D2C is that it's rarely a set and forget. It's I have to keep up and keep launching and keep fresh, keep new, because it's variety is the spice of life when it comes to having a D2C brand. It's probably one of the hardest parts when it comes to that business model.
Absolutely. Even some of the biggest brands in the world, same phone, right? New one every year. Cars, same car model. Every year there's a different make. There's a reason for that. It just brings... it just revives that concept of newness in there. Now, the consumable product part becomes interesting, right? Because this really might be a good time to talk to the brand founders out there who are thinking about still really early stage, and even though we hardly work with early stage. Or super early stage, pre-product even I get pulled into those conversations a lot, just pals that want to start brands and stuff like that. And when you were talking about consumable product and how it may work against you if you don't work in a consumable product game. Mm-hmm. If your brand just is not in that game whatsoever, it can work against you. It just reminds me of this one conversation that I had maybe a few years ago. How long ago doesn't really matter. And the premise of the brand was this: we care about sustainability. I'm like, awesome. What's the product? It's a gentle organic cotton piece of cloth to help you remove your makeup, and it's very gentle on the skin.
It's like microfiber type.
Like stuff that I will never understand as a straight male. And I go, okay, well, that's cool. AOV was woefully low, like in the $20-something. So they were going to sell a pack of it and then try to bump it up a little bit. And I go, so, okay, what's the premise? Why are you excited about this? Oh, we went and found a manufacturer where the piece of cloth is so good, it'll last customers at least 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, big red flag. That sounds awesome. As a product, as a consumer, I would love it. But as a business, now you got a really unique challenge because your repeat purchase, you're telling your customers don't come back for 5 years. And if you buy 3 of those and you're using them 3 in succession, don't come back for 15. Because when the first one's worn out, guess what? You still got that pack going on, unless you moved house and you lost it. But
it's almost like you're dooming yourself to go out of business before you even start.
Right. So the frame sets all these different business constraints that are coming down the pipe. And when we had that conversation, their eyes lit up and went, "Oh, we didn't even think about that."
Now, what I will say is also depends on how big the TAM is. Like you can still get quite large on a one-off purchase, but we have a brand that we used to work with for 3 years. They sold wedding bands, for example. And I don't know about you, but unless I'm not getting remarried, I don't need additional wedding bands. Well, for me, I lose mine. So this is actually my third one. Whole other conversation. So I do need it more often. But still, that was their Achilles flaw, is that they're only good for people who are actually in market. So technically, their business cannot get any bigger than people who are actively in market right now looking for that product. It was still a 3 to 4 million year business, e-com brand. But the problem is, to scale, that was their big struggles. And it was also highly seasonal as well. Now there's millions of people getting married, so that is your TAM every single year. But until you fix that problem, like what you're saying, D, you're kind of stuck. You're a one-off purchase business.
Yeah. And the point that I was trying to make to them wasn't necessarily don't start this business, but rather to go, know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
Right? Because you have the malleability, because you've only paid for prototypes right now before you've even had to go do the MOQ conversation. And then like
they would have to sell like a makeup or a cleaner that is more dispensable than
right. All that type of stuff. Right. To understand this is the business that you're setting up, and these are the constraints that will come with it. Much in the same way people ask me about starting an agency because they're thinking about starting an agency, and I go, it's a human capital business. Right? It's not SaaS. It's not publishing. It's not build one thing, hit a button, know how to sell it, and then you can just print that same IP over and over and over again. And in an industry that changes on you all the time, that also has a lot of, there are hardly any barriers to entry.
Yes.
If you understand that dynamic and you still go, yeah, still want to do it, like these dummies, then you do it knowing that those are the dynamics that you're going into.
An interesting brand I heard of one time that sold actually rings that are, again, like one-off purchases for engagement or wedding rings. They actually launched an interesting product that I thought was quite clever, where you buy the ring, but then they try to upsell you on this little box that you put a solution in that every night you put your ring in or your day in and it keeps it clean, but that thing's consumable and you have to get a subscription to keep up with the solution. I thought that was quite clever. That's a great example though of like the makeup cloth, something companion with it that is consumable, almost like the Jolie shower heads. your shower head, people don't replace it for like 20 years, but they have a little filter inside of it that does have a subscription on it. So you get new replacements every month.
Yeah. That was the, was it Xerox or was it Canon? I forget which one, but that was the thesis for that entire printer business or printer division of the business, where you lease hey, office HR person or admin person, we will install the printer into your office, no charge, on lease. And however, you have to then be on a locked in yearly subscription or annual subscription or 2-year subscription for the ink, the toner, and all that other stuff. Our people will come out to you. We'll just plug it in. We'll leave, or you can just buy it that way. But point being, that's the consumable portion, because the price of the printer really wasn't what they were going for. And you can apply that across so many different so many various ideas, exactly like that one, where it's you got the solution there, or a component. I guess if you are if you're selling sneakers, for example, any kind of sneaker maintenance, cleaning, keep it white stuff can then have that part baked into that model as well of selling.
One thing quite interesting. Go ahead. I was going to say, I think what might be helpful to bring up is, what are the different strategies brands can do to increase frequency?
Exactly. That was a question I was going to ask.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was exactly the question I was going to ask. So raising prices is the most obvious one, but I think also the emotionally scariest one.
Every time.
Right?
Yep.
I think. It's the simplest one by way of going, you have to change nothing infrastructurally and logistically, besides maybe telling your web developer to change the 5-figure to a 7, the number 5 to number 7, if you're changing prices that way and raising prices that way. But emotionally, I think it's the one with, quite honestly, it's the one with the biggest barrier. I don't know what it is,
but it's emotional, mental. It's not actually work involved to increase prices.
Yes, where the work involved really is like therapy. So
kind of like there's a lot of, typically a brand thinks about all the doom situations of, what if people stop buying from me?
Yes.
Then you just change it
back.
back.
I lose all my customers and piss all of them off. Yeah.
Or the other one I've heard recently is the perception is, but I like being the lower price end of the market. I'm like, oh, so you love being the least profitable person in the market?
Yeah, I came up. I was listening to a podcast this week, and it was talking about something else completely different, but talking about pricing strategies. And as I was driving, the thought that came up to my head was, the race to the bottom is probably the only race you really don't want to be winning.
Yeah, I feel bad for SaaS for that reason, because everyone's the cheaper SaaS. They'll leave you for the cheaper SaaS, and it kind of is like a race to the bottom for that business model. What I'm saying.
And the race to the bottom, like, what's worse than winning the race to the bottom? If that's part of your business strategy, that's great, but it's coming second. So you're not the cheapest, you're kind of like the second cheapest. So it's not an obvious choice for the consumer either. And now you've got to play that really funky game. So, so raising prices, the most obvious one, but also the most emotionally difficult one, because it's riddled with a lot of fear of losing customers, pissing them off, getting hate on social, et cetera, et cetera. What else? Which, by the way, we've worked with multiple brands to go, hey, let's run an experiment just to raise the prices. And they had all those exact very real fears, came out the other side and went.
There's actually great tools now too, that you can actually run a split test on pricing, and actually, 50% of the traffic sees this price, 50% see this price. And so it's actually a really low barrier way to, like, okay, let me just run an experiment and see for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And get some data so that you can hit Command Z. And really it's talking about one-way door and two-way doors, raising prices, even if you didn't have this test software, it's a two-way door.
Yeah.
And it's a really great opportunity. If you mess up, it's a really great opportunity to use one of Ray's tactics from episodes ago If you want to hit Command Z and hit undo and bring the prices back down, really great time. Founder email, plain text. We messed up. We heard from you guys and thought that this was the thing. Get more, like turn that into an opportunity too. So there's your win.
Those always pump money too. Like you should almost just purposefully screw up just so you can send those emails once in a while.
Yeah, but carefully though.
Yes, yeah. Pick a problem that people don't really care about. Like, oh, I messed up. Like, oh, my site went down. I'm sorry, I messed up. Or I increased the price. Or so I'm going to decrease the price now. Like those. It's so funny how well people love when people can be real humans and say they messed up, and they actually love you for it more.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Especially when it comes from when that genuine authenticity shines through. It only just brings people closer. Okay, so we got raising prices. What other ones are the go-tos?
Bundling. So, for example, we work with a lot of fashion. It's really great if you have, I'm going to pick like a leggings, for example. If you have that legging in 15 different colors, for example, one of the easiest things you can do is if someone buys a black one and a green one, when they're getting the checkout, say, hey, do you want to get 3 more colors for this 30% off, 40% off? We've seen that increase AOV 60%. And it's a really great way, especially when you have the same product, but there's many different SKUs. So I'd say bundling is a big one.
Yeah. And I guess baked into the bundling that you're just describing there, those order bumps are, classic,
yep.
Right? The one-time offer, that type of order bump to be able to just have that lift is really helpful as well. And then also some people think bundling means taking, 4 different products and putting it together and turning that into a bundle and having one price, but really it could be the same, but more.
Yeah.
So
have you heard
like
of
Mo?
True Classic
Love you, Mo. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Exactly.
They came out with because before you could buy, 1 shirt, 3 shirts, 4 shirts, but they realized that people were loving their shirts so much. Like, what if we did something crazy and we did for one price, you get 100 t-shirts, and it was over $1,000, and they sold out. Just to prove, that just proves that if people like your product, you probably could go much bigger and grander where people can buy, especially like a fashion brand, buy all the colors of the leggings in one price, $800. You'd be surprised how many people do that.
For sure. The same, but more. I remember talking to Mo about this. Love you, Mo, if you're watching this. And Mo would just go, it's really simple. We were just nerding out about all the different types of ways to run e-commerce product pages and landers. And, he loves his landers and he loves his putting them through a funnel. And it would just be, it'd be a very typical e-commerce lander, non-fashion, but e-commerce lander for, something like this, a functional product, for example. And when you get to the product selection portion of the lander, it's just buy 1, this price, buy 2, this price, and it would have the typical SaaS most popular under the one, right? And then buy 5, this price. And so you would click on your selection, hit add to cart, you go to the next page, and it'd be but wait, based off your selection, but wait, if you buy this, make the same exact order, but 2x, you get this other thing instead. And that's how he just got people through. So that's another way to do the bundling as well.
One trend I've been noticing recently, and they might have gotten it from SaaS as well, is for some brands that you can do that, what they'll do instead is the more you go up, it shows you the decrease in dollar per item or dollar per serving. So technically you're spending more, but it shows you the decreasing. Oh, if you change this option, it's $3 per serving. And if you go to 4, it's $2 per serving. So mentally, you're like, I'm getting a way better deal per serving, and you frankly are. But I've been noticing checkout pages where the emphasis on that more. Oh yeah. Again, if there's a checkout page that says if you go from like a 1 tub protein to 8 to 10 to 15, it shows that my dollar per gram was going from like 80 cents to 50 cents to 30 cents to 15 cents. I'd probably pull the trigger on it.
That's me. I'm a bulk supplement buyer because the place that I go to has exactly that. And I'm going, I'm paying almost nothing for my protein.
For a
my
while
credit card, like my card says a different story, but I'm almost paying nothing here.
It's funny you say that. For a while there, I got really obsessive, and I was like going to the store and I was pricing, okay, what is my dollar per gram of protein? And I was comparing that with protein powders and chicken and ground beef.
I remember when you're doing that.
I get like 10 cents cheaper, 10 cents cheaper per gram of protein if I get this ground beef 15-pound slab of this thing from like Costco.
Yeah. I remember when you did that. I'm like, man, this guy's going next level.
Yeah, so obsessive.
So we've got the price increase, the obvious ones. We've got the price increase. We've got the bundling on the AOV side. Before we move on to purchase frequency, which is the other very, very important way to increase your lifetime value, are there any other ones on the AOV side that we haven't touched on yet that you want to touch on?
Yeah, very similar. Some kind of purchase threshold to unlock a free gift or to unlock a free shipping or things like that. That helps. I've even seen recently package protection. That's quite popular now as well, where it's not a big amount, but would you like to buy package protection for $3.95? Right. And that's pretty much almost probably 80% margins because only 10% or 20% of orders actually ever need protection. And one that's been a big trend recently is there'll be some kind of an incentive to you're $10 away from $20 in free store credit. Because interesting here is that there's been studies done that only 20% of people ever reclaim in-store credit or in-store dollar purchases. And so that's why a lot of people use those instead of a gift card, it's an in-store credit because most people don't reclaim gift cards. That's why they'll use it as like a free gift. Yes. Because again, only 20% of people are going to reclaim it, but then they add more to their cart on the first time. So I've been noticing a big trend doing that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And for the brands that want to get really crafty, which I don't recommend that every single brand does this, but for the brands that really do want to get really crafty, then the fine print on the $20 credit is either an expiry date and or a minimum order for that 20 to be unlocked. I've encountered those types of brands. Only certain types of audiences are like okay with that, but adding that fine print can also help like the math out.
We had a brand one time that turned on Shopify's feature to give a tip to their artisans. So you can even do that if you want to. If you have like people that hand make stuff, give a tip. It's a way to increase AOV.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a cool one too, because especially because of the artisan angle, right? It's like
that's the only way it comes across normal and not like a dick. If you're just a fashion brand, like you want to give us a tip versus no, like we handmade your leggings.
It's like that toll booth operator be like, "Yo, tip." You're like,
that's like Meta or Google saying, "Hey, you want to leave us a tip when we spend $100,000 a month? Want to leave us a tip too?" No, I just gave you a $100,000 tip.
Oh, that's hilarious. So let's move on. AOV, several ways there already. Purchase frequency. I love this one because it's the world of email SMS. It's the world of creating, and it's the world of product design. It's the world of drops. It's the world of that whole realm on this other side, right? Mm-hmm. Once you've gotten the AOV going, in other words, now they're a buyer. They're in your inner circle of buyers. Now that whole entire world opens up. Mm. What are the go-tos there? I think the product drop was the first one that you talked about already.
Yeah, I think, in my humble opinion, I think product or your product choice or your product design is the number one reason people come back. If it's a consumable, there's now an incentive for them to come back. If you've designed in a way that they have to come back because you have a filter that they have to replace, but really for those brands that don't, new SKUs, new variants, it gives them a reason to come back. And then after that, it's email and SMS. Because again, this happens to us all the time. We have brands where they have a one SKU store. It's not consumable. You run out of things to mention email and SMS. So now it's like, if you buy it for a gift, get 2 for this. And a lot of times you're just hitting people that were opted in via the email pop-up that never bought anyways that are buying. So that's where, like, but if you design in a way that you have something new, then email and SMS is an incredibly effective channel for that.
Yeah, for sure. Besides at the product level, tactically, are there any other things that brand owners can do, or maybe perhaps like the marketer portion? So if you're working in marketing, for example, short of nagging your boss and being like, "Boss, we need new product,"
Yeah.
What are the things that the marketer side can do?
Yeah. So a few things that are low-hanging fruit. If you have a brand that has a line of products that have additional SKUs, and I actually learned this tip from a friend of ours, where if you can't get them to buy again in like a post-purchase upsell or in the checkout, do what's called an immediate upsell or an immediate cross-sell, meaning if someone buys within 30 minutes or an hour, send them a text message saying, "Hey, I saw you buy these purple leggings. Do you want to get the matching purple top? If you check out in the next 15 minutes, I'll give it to you for 30% off." That's a really great way to get them to buy again, like in a short amount of time. And you can also experiment with that, days or weeks afterwards. But typically, if they just spent money with you, they're still somewhat attentive to do that again. So I think that's a really big one. And then other really big ones as well is later on, if you're segmented enough and sophisticated enough on your back end, you could also do something quite similar where, who are all the people that bought purple leggings? Okay, well, let's do a series of campaigns to get them to buy the purple top with flowers, the purple top with kittens.
The Barney bundle.
Yeah, the Barney bundle. And then also you can do non-closely related. Okay, let's get them to buy the pink set, the green set, the black set, the yellow set. So if you can get sophisticated with that, it makes it quite easy. Justin, who we'll have on the pod eventually, again, he has a good strategy that I take a lot from, is anytime he sees that a new product or SKU is starting to pop off, then, or even organically, what he'll do is he'll craft a series of campaigns to get customers to come back saying, "Hey," by pretty much making the campaign around, "This is hot right now." And they may not be aware of it, but now it's bring attention to something that truly is hot right now. So now it feels quite more authentic than like, "Here, just buy our crap." It's like, "No, this is hot right now." Or this was just seen on Kim Kardashian, for example.
Yes. Yeah. When you mentioned the immediate upsell and how most of the time, and I get those emails all the time too, most of the time the delivery mechanism is at the order confirmation, right? Once you get the order confirmation. So you've made the purchase, there's order confirmation, and then the offer, the invitation, the offer gets presented there. When that time comes, when I run a brand, and we run a brand, I would insist on whoever is running it, the e-commerce manager side of things, to go, is there some way that we can send that messaging out, not on the immediate part, but also when there is an API call that confirms that they've received their product. Peak excitement there. Yes. I would love to hit them there, right? Where it's like an API call, because people confirm or they sign for the thing from the courier, they hit the signature. 1, 2, 3 minutes later, it's like message from the brand. "Hey, did you receive it? Would love to see you in it, or I'd love to see you wearing it," or something like that. And by the way, some incentive, like some offer, something, right? In that moment of time, because I'm touching it now. That is prime time.
Yes.
Especially if your thing has a really pleasant unboxing experience.
I also like using the crowd effect as well, is doing campaign strategies on email, showing the products or the different various products out in the wild too, because maybe someone may not think that they want it, but frankly, when they see other people want it and other people enjoy it, it actually works, right? So if I see D wearing a lot of black shirts, I'm like, dang, I need to buy some more black shirts. Like, it really does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there are, I think, man, we can go on like for days and days on the LTV side because it's such a rich ground to be able to play. Are there...
One thing I'll say is like, if you do crack like this LTV and if you just understand it and you see the different levers you can pull, why we like it so much is because then we can say, hey, let's start with now a 10-day buyback. So let's say your AOV was $60, but within 30 days, that $60 actually works 67. Okay, cool. Like let's increase our customer acquisition target to a 1-month buyback. Is everything okay? Is cash flow okay? Okay, cool. Now let's do a 2-month. And the whole point of us doing that is whoever acquires the most customers wins. So ergo, if you can be more aggressive and acquire more customers, you will win your competition and you'll outbeat them.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, do you mind explaining 1-month buyback, 2-month buyback?
Yes. So the 1-month buyback, that means what is the additional revenue and profit you will get from a net new customer based off of the repeat buying patterns. So in previous episodes, we've shown a customer cohort, but often we'll see a lot of brands within the first 30 days, 10% of new customers will buy again. So with a $60 AOV example, that could mean that $60 on average is actually worth $66 because 10% will buy again. So that means within 30 days, if let's say you acquire a customer for $60, for example, that means within that 30 days, you'll get an additional $6 based off your historical patterns of people buying from you again. And that's just an example where then maybe it's another 10% in month 2 and then another 10% in month 3. Well, now like that really changes because while you may break even or lose money on the first sale, but they're going to buy again in 30 days, you're going to get that money back. Because it's cheaper to buy for an email or nearly free from an email than it is from an ad. So especially for consumable brands or brands that want to be hyper aggressive, they look at those numbers because we have a fashion brand right now that they have an amazing return customer rate. So they're like, well, we can actually acquire customers at losing money on the first sale, but within 30 days, 15% of them are going to buy again. We're just going to get that money back.
Yeah. And perhaps, we can start landing the plane as we get to the end of this episode. Once the illuminating thing about that calculator as the starting point to start several conversations, the illuminating thing goes beyond, look at how much more money we can make. It also starts to shed light on what are our CAC targets now, right? Like how much can we start feeling, not even feeling, but having a sense of certainty to say, let's set that target at $60, to your point, $60 to acquire a customer. Anything below that, let's just keep spending. We start getting close and creeping up to that number. We got some calls to make, right? As opposed to everything must be like $10 CPA, $20 CPA, whatever, like this overtly restrictive thing that may be limiting the growth of the company, limiting sales even.
So I have a mutual friend off X named Nate Lagos. He is the CMO for Original Grain. They're an 8-figure watch brand. And he's been talking about this recently. He said that over the last 5 years they've been in business, their CAC has only gone up. But instead, they decided to play the game differently where they can increase their margin or LTV so they can keep accepting a higher CAC as platforms get more expensive. And that right there is the game. Like CAC is never going to get cheaper. You may have some breakthroughs that can make that happen. But really the game is how can I increase AOV, margins on my products or purchase frequency so I can still keep up with the game or beat the game because I can increase that faster than my CAC is increasing.
Yeah. And to be able to have that level of certainty so that so that you don't feel like you're just stabbing in the dark to go, because for a lot of, I appreciate this because for a lot of new brand founders where they do not have a year's worth of data, for example,
yes,
or 6 months worth of data, for example, they just essentially have to work off of unit economics and a lot of assumptions, right? But what I notice as a pattern is unless they bring in an accountant or unless they bring in a CFO or unless they bring in someone with like a numbers mind, 9 months in, a year in, 2 years in, whatever it might be, where there is enough data, they still stick with that stab in the dark approach to their CPA and their CAC calculations. And so it's continually murky. So even if they employ someone, it's going, well, we're working off of the previous known CAC from back when we were a scrappy company.
And that's so dangerous. Like as your brand grows, new levels of scale in your products, like that's something you should revisit very frequently. And I mean very frequently.
That's like that's like your parents making you, a 14-year-old, wear the same shoes that you had when you were 10. Right? Your toes are going to be sticking out. It's going to be this raggedy ass shoe with like your toes sticking out because it doesn't fit you anymore. That CAC might not fit you anymore. So you can't go play ball. You can't go on the court. The field is off limits because your toes are just going to get ripped off if you try doing any of those things with those shoes. So having that updated to go, well, you don't fit these shoes anymore. Fortunately, your toes tell you when they hurt, but you kind of have to have your feelers open when your business tell you that it's hurting. Like it wants to grow more, but you're just keeping those same shoes on.
Yes. Especially with, I'll probably end with this, is the good part is with the D2C businesses, with more volume, you can actually have lower thresholds of return you need. You can accept higher CACs as well. And that's the beauty. Is like with more volume, you could have massive upsides for a D2C brand. And then with more volume, very small tweaks to AOV, repeat purchase rate, has even bigger swings in terms of revenue and profitability.
Yeah. You get to a certain, I'm always thinking about escape velocity, right? Where you get to this point where it's just like, the problems that plagued you before that were catastrophic are now just infinitesimally small. Yes. So every gate that you can pass through towards escape velocity. So once you hit a certain volume, you have negotiating power with your suppliers. You're getting closer to escape velocity because now you hold the power, not your suppliers. You cross another gate, it starts to unlock different economies of scale, but also at the same time, some reputational things as well. And just the fact that because you have that scale, to your point, 10% of 1 million customers is dramatically different to 10% of 200,000 customers.
Yes. Huge swings.
Yeah. So that one email campaign that you send out, if the open rate's good to that volume, different, very, very different. Dude, I hope this was helpful for you guys to go through that calculator. Man, what is going on? It's you and me both, man. I didn't know stuff could get contagious over like the internet. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. What are the areas, I want to ask you, what are the areas in your brand that you think could be the shoes, the old shoes from 4 years ago that could be holding you back from running forward? Really interested to know in the comments. And again, we might end up from those comments and from your thoughts, be able to pick a whole entire topic to talk about for a future episode. Very excited about that. And of course, if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you have not already, do subscribe to the channel. We are on episode 30. Cannot wait to see you in episode 300. We're going to be looking really different by the time it's episode 300. So I like this video for now. Sweet. Let's call it off here, man.
Thanks, Steve.
Ray,
good episode.
Good episode for sure. Everyone else, see you next time. Adios.